Hi, everybody, and welcome to the live stream on YouTube. I have tried a lot in the last hour to go live, so maybe you have seen some information or statistics about going live. And the idea today is to focus on some idioms and expressions that we use every day in English. So I will explain to you some of the expressions that we have on my list here, and I will try to explain to you when we use them and what exactly they are about. So the first expression that we have on our list is an acid test. And you can see here in my chat, this is the first expression, and I will use this chat facility to put the list in available for you because I was trying to use the software OBS, but it was unable to allow me to work. So the first expression, acid test, this basically means it is the key and most important test that you will have. Like in chemistry, when you add two things together, you will see the exact, definite, final result. So, for instance, if you have been preparing for a long time and you eventually test yourself, this will be the moment of truth. And this is a very typical expression, the acid test. And most people are aware of that. And that is the first expression on our list. And this is an idiom or an expression. The next expression that we have is very famous, and it is actions speak louder than words. And I'm going to type it here as well. So actions speak louder than words. And this basically means that lots of people maybe say what they will do, and they use vocabulary to describe their ambitions, however, or intentions, but doing the action is much better and more beneficial than speaking what you're going to do. So basically, doing something is better than speaking about doing it. That's a very famous expression. Actions speak louder than words. And that is a very well known expression as well. Okay, so obviously we are starting with the letter A, and the next expression is to add insult to injury. And this is very famous as well because if you are injured, this means that you have a lot of pain and you are in difficulty and you are very vulnerable in that moment. So, if an insult is added to you, this will make the situation even worse. Therefore, if you add insult to injury, this will make everything worse than it actually is. For example, if you lose your job, that is an injury. But if something worse happens in the same day, this will add insult to injury. For instance, you lose your job and the company also take your mobile phone. And this action of taking your mobile phone adds insult to injury as well. Good. So that is three idioms and expressions that we use typically in English. And let me just play around with this option on YouTube just to see exactly what I can possibly do. Edit, I can press the edit button and I'm not sure what will happen here. So nothing happens there. Okay, so let me go to the next idiom and the next expression that we have, and that is after the watershed. This is very difficult and it's very advanced. So basically, this expression means that there is a limit on time, specifically for television, when it is possible to show material targeted for adults and not for children. So the watershed is typically 9 p.m. and you can watch television more focused towards adults after 9 p.m. And this line is called the watershed. This is very difficult because in English we have a verb to shed, and the significance is similar to lose. So, for instance, you can shed weight, and this means you're losing weight. And a dog can shed hair, and this means the dog is losing hair as well. So it's a very flexible word in English. A shed, in fact, is a place in the garden where you keep your tools, and everything that you need for your house is typically kept in the shed. But there's another possibility. We shed light on something, and that means to put, basically, to put light on a particular topic or a particular piece of news. You shed light on something, and that means you're showing or putting the light on something specifically. And that is a very famous expression you can see in the chat. To shed light on something means to put light on something and to identify a topic. However, the expression we are talking about is after the watershed, you can see in the chat, and that means it is a time limit, typically on television, when you can broadcast and show some material more specific and dedicated to adults. Okay, next we continue with the letter A, and we can see here the expression is against the clock. And this is a very well known expression that we use in English when you are facing a lot of pressure in relation to time. So if you are working against the clock, this means that you are working with a lot of pressure and you are feeling stressed and you must go against the clock. So it's a very famous expression that you are working against the clock. And this means that you are facing a lot of pressure to complete your task or to arrive in the one location. And that's a very well known expression as well. Against the clock, you are feeling pressure to do something. Next, we can see the expression ahead of time. And this is interesting because it's probably just literal, that if you arrive to a location before you are expected to arrive, we can say that you arrive ahead of time. That is the first use of this term. However, there is a second significance as well, ahead of your time. And this maybe refers to your activity or your behavior, which is very modern or very advanced compared to other people. So if you are ahead of your time, you maybe are using technology that is more advanced compared to everybody else. So you are thinking ahead and you are ahead of your time as well. So there's two little variations of that expression: ahead of time, which is just general, and ahead of your time, which means you are more advanced than other people in your era or generation. Next, we look at expression which is all ears. And this is very well known as well. And the example is, I am all ears. This basically means that you are available to listen to your friend. Okay, so there's a story, there is gossip, something happened, and you are now available to listen exactly to what happened. You are willing to be patient, and therefore we say you are all ears. And this means you are open and ready to listen to what exactly happened. I am all ears. That is very famous and very well known as well. Next, we continue with the letter A, and the expression is an arm and a leg. And this is referring to something that is very expensive. So if you buy a car and the car is extremely expensive, we can say the car cost you an arm and a leg. And this means that the car was obviously very, very expensive. And it's a very typical expression that we use in English frequently when something is very expensive. Similarly, when something is expensive, we say it was very steep, and that means expensive also. So the food was very steep, the restaurant was very steep, or the phone that you bought was also very steep as well. So that's a very interesting word in relation to a synonym for expensive. And as we can see here, an arm and a leg means it was costing you a lot of money to buy the product or the service. Okay, next we continue with the letter A, and the expression is around the clock. And the preposition is around, and this means you are working basically constantly. You work constantly around the clock, you never stop. And that's a very well known expression as well, that you are working around the clock and you do not stop. You are working constantly. That is quite well known. Next is quite general. We just say as time goes by, and this means as time passes. So you are learning a lot of things as time goes by. As the time progresses, as time passes, you are learning some things, or you are growing older, or you are maturing, or you're changing your opinion, changing your mind as time goes by. So that's very well known as well. Next, we have a very proficient expression and very difficult to understand. It is at the drop of a hat. And of course, the verb is to drop. You can drop your hat. And when you drop your hat, it's very quick. So this metaphor is used to express somebody behaving in a very quick manner and reacting in a very quick way. And for instance, I will collect my friend at the drop of a hat. I will collect my friend immediately when there is a problem or when there is an issue. I will do it at the drop of a hat. And that's very well known as well. You can see the list is growing, and we have a lot of good vocabulary and expressions today in our idiom lesson. Next, we continue with a very well known expression as well, which is simple, and we move to the letter B. Basically, we say back to basics. First, we have here an adjective, I think, back. You remember the movie Back to the Future, and that is similar to returning. So the significance is probably similar to returning. Therefore, back to basics means you are returning to basics. And this is normally applicable when something is more complicated, your process or your behavior is very complicated, and you decide you want to return to something more basic. And that's a very well known expression, that you are back to basics. We can use this in lots of different situations as well. And it would be very well known that somebody or something is going back to basics. Next expression is related. And you can see the expression here, back to drawing board. And first, we must understand what exactly is the drawing board. Typically, in an office, in a hotel meeting, we have the board, and you draw some pictures on the board. You make your plan, you create your strategy on the board. Okay. And this is the place and the location where you begin and start your project. So, if the project progresses and you have problems in the project, you can go back to the beginning and back to the drawing board, and this will be the moment when you re-establish and recreate all of your plans and all of your ideas. So you're going back to the drawing board, and that's very famous as well. Good. We continue with the letter B, and the next expression on my list is a bad apple. If somebody is a bad apple, this basically is very interesting. Somebody is a bad apple. When you have one bad apple in a group of good apples, the good apples turn bad and they rot. So the specific verb we need is to rot, and that is the verb we use in food when the food starts to turn very, very bad. And a bad apple can influence the other apples. And this is a metaphor, of course, for groups of people. When one person is considered a bad influence, this person will affect the other group if people are not aware and conscious and careful. So, a bad apple is a very well known expression, and most people know this expression for sure, especially in advanced English. Next, we have another very comfortable, very conversational and fluent expression, and it is the ball is in your court. And this probably is related to tennis. when you play tennis and you have a tennis court. The name of the place where you play tennis is a tennis court. And when the ball comes into your court, there are two parts, your court and my court. So if the ball enters my court, I have control, I have responsibility, and basically I have the option to play the ball in a particular way. So when I hit the ball to you, the ball goes into your court, and now you have control, you have responsibility, and you have the option to play whatever way you want. Therefore, this expression means, in a metaphorical way, that you have control and you have the option to do something. And we use this in many situations in relation to negotiation. If we have a negotiation and the ball is in your court, this means you now have control and you have the option to act and behave in a particular way. So the ball is in your court. Okay, and that is very, very well known. Next, we continue with an expression, barking up the wrong tree. And the verb here is to bark, which is typical related to a dog. When a dog is angry, the dog might start to bark. And obviously, this is not good. So, in the context of this example, when a dog is following or chasing an animal in a tree, the dog might think the animal is in this tree. However, no, the dog in reality is barking up the wrong tree because the animal is in the other tree. And this parable or metaphor is used in other situations in English when you maybe accuse another person of doing something. You are probably incorrect and you are searching the wrong avenue and you are barking up the wrong tree as well. So that's very well known for sure. Um, Good. So we'll continue a little and I'm just going to explain the next expression. It is glad to see the back of someone. And glad means you are happy and content. And if you see the back of somebody, this means the person is leaving, the person is departing, the person is going. So you are very happy to see the back of this person. And this means you are happy to see this person leave and this person to depart. So you are happy to see the back of the winter. That could be used in the same context when the winter is changing to the spring. And this is a very well known expression that you are happy to see somebody or something leave or to depart. Okay, next we have another very advanced expression, and it is to beat around the bush. This is very interesting because the verb to beat has two significances. To beat is maybe physical, you physically beat, and the second significance is maybe in sport with the same area when one team is a victor over another team. So one team beat another team, and this means they have the victory against the opposition. And here it's a very strange expression because we also have a bush, and a bush is typical in a garden. And when you beat around the bush, this means you speak about different things, except the real thing you want to speak about is in the bush. It's a bit difficult, but it's a metaphor and a little parable again. And it's a very famous expression, very advanced, basically meaning don't forget the topic and concentrate on speaking about what exactly you want to talk about. So stop beating around the bush and start telling me exactly your opinion and what you think. So that's a very good expression for sure. To beat around the bush means to waste your time and tell me exactly what you think. Next, we have another expression related to the verb to beat, and this is in the sense of time and pressures of time. So if you try to beat the clock, you are trying to be victorious against the clock. and it's a competition because you have lots of pressure and you want to beat the clock. And that is very well known as well. I hope the volume is okay. I can see on my screen the volume only has 1 bar from maybe 6 bars. So I just hope you can hear me perfectly and there is no issue as well with the volume, because that's important. You can hear me very, very well. So the expression is to beat the clock, and that is very interesting for sure. And it means to be victorious in your battle against time and your pressure against time. You want to win your battle. The next expression is very difficult, and we say a bee on your bonnet. This is probably very difficult to understand and to explain. A bee is very easy to understand. It's an insect that is a little dangerous, and in English it stings. Okay, so the verb is to sting, and this is the pain the bee or the wasp causes you. Okay, so if a bee stings you, this will create pain for you. So a bonnet is flexible. A bonnet has two significances. The bonnet is your hat. In old, very formal English, a bonnet is your hat you maybe wear at a wedding. And the bonnet is also in your car. You have the front bonnet, and this means it is the front part of the car that lifts up. So if you have a bee on your hat, a bee on your bonnet, which sounds very a lot of rhymes and comfortable. So if you have a bee on your hat, you will start to be stressed, worried, anxious, uncomfortable, and this is a metaphor we use for people who are behaving in this way, that somebody has a bee on their bonnet and they are behaving in a very peculiar, stressed, worried, anxious way. And that's very famous as well. You remember the previous expression, you are ahead of your time? Well, now we move to the other expression, which is ahead of your time or behind your time. If you are behind the times, this means you are very old fashioned and you are not very modern. So if you are behind the times, this means you are very old fashioned, as I said, and not very modern in your behavior, in your routine, or in your attitude. But it's just an expression and it is very well known as well to be behind the times. Next, we speak about bells and whistles. And this is difficult to understand too. Basically, when you buy something, you have an option. You can buy the simple version or you can buy the more complicated version. And when you buy the more complicated version, you have a lot more decoration, a lot more things on the product to make it more attractive. These are known as the bells and the whistles. So if you are buying something with the bells and whistles, this means you are buying absolutely everything that you possibly can, and every detail that you want to add to your product will be on the product. So they are the bells and whistles. So that is a very interesting expression for sure in English. Okay, and then the last expression is the best of both worlds. And this is very well known as well. If you um, want everything positive and everything good, we say that you are looking for the best of both worlds. And this means that you are wanting something, you're wanting everything good, everything your way. But sometimes in reality, you need to accept some difficult situations, but have some positivity on the other hand as well. But you want the best of both worlds. And that's a very well known expression as well. Okay, so that's just a little example of some idioms, and hopefully we can return again to another YouTube live stream and continue chatting and explaining about idioms, and hopefully we can attract more interested people somehow and try to have more interaction with everybody and grow in that way. So we can only continue and practice. And thank you very much for your time. And I hope that you have a very good evening, and keep in touch with all the social media on Facebook Live. I have free lessons every day on the Facebook Live page as well. So that's very interesting for sure. So thank you so much. Have a great day and hopefully talk to you soon. Bye bye.